Sup guys, it's desRow. We're back with Remax, episode 14! Oh my god! BlizzCon, Legacy of the Void. Thank you, Rifkin. Oh shit, I had like 10 minutes to swap the cameras around. Alright, Rifkin is now Nathanias TV.
Wow.
So,
Kappa HD! Kappa HD!
Man, I've been going to the gym. Now Rifkin's gonna reap the rewards. Rifkin's gonna get all these fangirls message him on Twitter.
yeah?
Damn, is that what you do? I should start going to the gym. Shit.
So, let's start with the intros. We all had a very long weekend since we were all at BlizzCon, full of passion. So we'll start with my co-host, HuK. How have you been? What have you been up to? And was it fun dodging me as much as you could last weekend at BlizzCon?
It was very fun. I had a blast dodging it. No, I was busy doing the BlizzCon stuff.
Yes, the networking stuff.
Yeah, that stuff. Helping where I could with stuff. Yeah, it was nice. It was fun. I'm still a little bit sick from what I guess it started at DreamHack Stockholm, carried to Taiwan, and now BlizzCon. But slowly but surely getting better. Slowly but surely losing the cough. All in all, it was really fun. And it was nice to spend what do we do? IHOP together.
Oh, that was good times. That IHOP breakfast, yeah.
But you meant with me, right? Right?
Oh.
Well,
You met
I
with
had
me.
breakfast. Yeah, well, you missed on the second breakfast because you left, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Guys, I had to wait 4 hours to get high up with Chris because Miss wanted...
What do you mean you have to? You message me and you go IHOP like 10 a.m. and I'm sleeping and I'm like, okay, I'll be up in like an hour. if you
No,
wanna
you're
call.
like, I'm going back to sleep. And then...
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, but it's BlizzCon, man. Who sleeps at BlizzCon?
It isn't like I said, desRow, be up at 10 a.m. and at IHOP, and then you went to IHOP and you waited there, and then 4 hours later I showed up. We never planned it, and then you said, let's go at 10 a.m., and I'm like, I'm going back to bed. We can go later if you want. That's how it works.
Yes. I was... Yeah, it's okay. I didn't hold you
Okay.
responsible.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Rifkin...
That's what it sounded like.
So anyway, Rifkin, how was your
My
weekend?
yes? My yes is pretty yes.
Yeah.
Not a lot of no's, but a little bit.
A little bit of maybe.
My weekend started off dramatic and terrible, actually. I'm a grown man who has not cried in, like, years. And I went to the bathroom and I openly wept because my wallet got stolen during opening ceremony. And I had, like, a straight-up panic attack. Other than that, though, the weekend was fucking amazing. It was all uphill from there because it couldn't go downhill. But BlizzCon was a blast. And meeting HuK, Nate, desRow, definitely huge highlights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was funny when... Well, it wasn't so funny, but when Zombie Grum made a joke about you not having money, and then... you,
Fuck, desRow?
then you, like, snapped at her. You're like, can we not make fun about me losing my money in my wallet? I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, Nathanias...
Your dick.
Nathanias, how have you been? I know you've been very busy, man.
I've been good, man.
Yeah?
BlizzCon was awesome. It was my first BlizzCon ever.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, this is great. I picked the worst time to go to the shop, like, cause we were working. They were able to like get us like to the shop thing because we didn't have time to actually wait in the line or whatever. And I went on the second day and I couldn't get the Overwatch shirt that I wanted, so I was really sad, Panda. But outside of that, I really liked the event. And yeah, I don't know how much. Do you want to know like what I like? I don't know how I've been living.
Well, I know you bumped out pretty early on Saturday night, but
Oh man. You know what, man? I was the rest stop in the middle of a 100-mile stretch of road where everybody stopped to drop off their booze. Let's just say that. That's what it felt like to me. I'm actually gonna hire bodyguards. I only take drinks from people that give me jobs from now on.
yeah. All
Or
right.
just learn a little self-control, you know?
Hey man.
Well, it was
I'm
a
pretty
very-
sure you were already wasted by the time I got to the Hilton that night. And then when
It's
you
a
didn't show up at the Twitch
slippery-
after party,
it's a
I was in
slippery
shock.
slope. It's a slippery slope.
Well,
Moving
when
on.
someone works as much as you know, like a drop of like liquor is so much more effective than
Well,
someone.
I hadn't eaten at all, and I'd woken up at 5 a.m. after like 3 hours of sleep. So
Yeah, that's a very bad recipe. So anyway, enough of the PG alcohol talk. For me, I was at BlizzCon too. I tried to chase HuK as much as I could. Even at the after party, the funniest thing at the after party, I was there for 2 hours, and every time I was trying to get to HuK, he was moving around, and then I even like saw him through the window, and I waved, and the people with him waved at me. He didn't. And then by the time I was leaving, he's like, "Hey, it's the first time I see you. How you doing?" And I'm like, "I've been chasing for you all night." It wasn't like a sad thing or anything. It was just funny because there was so many people. But yeah, BlizzCon was amazing. I played a lot of Overwatch. I played a lot of Legacy of the Void. And we're here today to talk to you guys about what the announcements were and the changes. And we'll be covering that. I wanted to do a 3-hour special, and we're still going to do it, but it's been really hard to get people to come on the show because of Home Story Cup next weekend, and people are just tired and very busy. So we'll have Caitlin later on, and possibly more. So stay tuned for that. HuK's going to stay for an hour. He has IEM qualifier. And so we're going to get on with the topics. So at BlizzCon, there was the huge opening ceremony with, Overwatch, Hearthstone expansion, no one cares. And so there was also the Legacy of the Void. What? No, I'm just kidding, man. Passion Stone. All right. So the biggest announcements were automated tournaments, Harkon mode, and I guess for the filthy casual. I know I say it with an extra H, all right?
I don't mean to hark on you for saying Harkon mode, desRow, but
Archon mode. All right. See the H's, man. They anyway. So and for the casual, the campaign co-op. So that's pretty cool. Let's just start with the first one, Archon mode. What are your thoughts, Rifkin?
Well, as a grassroots organizer, I'm not looking forward to it because it means I have to pay 2 people instead of 1 for tournaments.
Oh, yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think it looks really cool. I think that it's got the potential to be really awesome. I also think it's got the potential to show like really awful moments that I think are gonna be hilarious highlights. Like for example, can you imagine Lings running towards your base and both of you are trying to lift the depot and like lower the depot at the same time? Like it's just, I think it's gonna be funny and I think it's gonna be cool.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nathanias?
I think the Archon mode thing is really cool, right? So, I mean, the most obvious part about it is if Blizzard really commits on this and we see like a ladder for it or something like that, ladder anxiety is a pretty big deal for StarCraft. It's nice to always have something to blame. And as a streamer, I would love to stream Archon mode with someone else so I can blame them instead of blaming game balance. So that would make it a little more easy for me to play games. But I think there's lots of other cool stuff that can come from that too, because it gives you obviously a different dynamic. There's probably some strategies or weird stuff that maybe are going to be easier when you can split all the tasks. And I think I don't remember if I talked to you about this or not, desRow, but it's also Archon mode could be really sick for like coaching. If you like if you go in the game with your buddy. Yeah, because this I actually had a chat with like when I was asking them, I'm like, so why is Archon mode? Like, well, one of the like Blizzard guys was telling me, he's like, well, we think it could also be like a really cool tool for coaching. And then I realized, I'm like, man, someone's like, oh, how do I do something like this? Or, where do I want to position my army when I have to take this engagement? And you like actually can show them, it's pretty sick.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Chris?
I guess I'll be the Debbie Downer here. I don't really care that much about it. I
Chris,
think
the Ranger doesn't play well with others.
Oh, that's very true, man. That guy made me go crazy. We had a Star Strikers tournament. He like fired one of our teammates on the spot, and he made like, this is why I have gray hair. This guy is terrible. Anyway, go on.
Can we talk about how ready desRow was to jump on that, like for just a second?
To be honest, I thought about it too. My first thought was like, if you did a tournament like this or something, and I was playing with desRow, I just see myself being really aggravated at times when I feel like they didn't do something as well as I would have done it. So that's honestly probably what would happen. Which it would be funny though. I think if you mic'd a team up and got like all their vocals and communication while they're playing, and they're raging or yelling at each other or whatever. But the most excited I was for it actually is when Nathanias just said for coaching. I think that's really, really cool. I think that would be one of the biggest benefits. As far as them, I know they're planning on making like a ladder or something for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be something competitive or I don't like.
Well,
like I view it like Starbow, right? It's gonna have this tiny scene and it's gonna be okay, but I don't think it's gonna be. It'll be fun, cool, but me personally, I just I feel like
This-
there's Team Elite and Brood War, and I played that, and that was fun, and you played it from time to time. But StarCraft 2 is already a really easy game, so to make it easier and split it between two people.
Well, see, that's where I would debate you actually, because you got to remember too, they're changing the economy up. And for those who didn't see, basically you start with more workers, less mineral patches, and you're gonna see like 7 base expansion type games, and that might be where Archon mode ends up working well. If you're fighting on 2 fronts, like you won't have the attention to like focus on 7 bases, right? Whereas if there's 2 of you, maybe it becomes a little easier. I don't know.
I
There's just
mean, I
so much
I,
more that goes into this than just playing together, right?
I agree. For Silver League, it has its benefits, but for me personally, I don't.
Yeah, so here's
No
the
offense.
thing. I think there's like 3 types of players, or maybe more, but let's just generalize. So there's like the lower leagues, casuals. You put them in one basket. Then
Yeah.
you have the streamers, which is a pretty small crowd, all things considered. Since StarCraft doesn't get the most views, there's not like like 300 streamers at all time on Twitch, whatever. And then there's the pros like HuK. So obviously HuK's not gonna have doesn't want to split his prize money, doesn't want to like deal with me being slow or whatever. Because if you're playing in a tournament, then it's split in half, is what I meant. So it's not something like that you're looking forward to. It's not as exciting, but like the big majority of the StarCraft players is the casuals, the guys at the lower leagues, and I feel like this is especially with the changes with the units, which everything wants to be more micro and more multitasking. You can just get so much done in Harkon mode with your friends, and I think the potential is huge. I think the growth will be there. I think it'll just motivate, because 2v2 is not the same as 1v1, but 2v2 Archon mode quotes is legit. It's like what you see the pros do. So you want to copy, then maybe you even want to play 1v1 on your own time so that you can carry your friend in Archon mode. Because the thing is, you got 2 people, right? And you want to play StarCraft. One will always be better than the other, and then it sort of sets like you assert dominance, and you're like, okay, like I'm the king of the hill, and the other guy's like, well, shit, I'm tired of getting pooped on by my friend, but then instead you become a team. And Nathanias, what are your thoughts?
I think for those reasons, you're dead on. Like, thing is, the biggest part that makes a lot of the MOBA games, or basically anything that isn't StarCraft, successful for the casual base is StarCraft is inherently a very stressful game. Like, you could play StarCraft, you get to a 30-minute game, and then obviously it's, as a bad player, there's a lot more times where you could not suck, but one moment of weakness can cost you it, and then that's it. And it's like, well, the only thing you really have to blame is yourself, and then everybody goes and blames balance anyway. But it's stressful, and ladder anxiety is a very real thing. When I was a scrub in Gold League, like, I didn't really ladder at all for the first year because I was fucking terrified to play, because I was just like, everyone's gonna judge me for being bad, even though nobody gave a shit who I was. So this applies to everybody. Ladder anxiety is a very real thing, and being able to play with your friend is also like, people like to play games with their friends. It's not like a magical secret of the universe, right? That when your friends like, yo, let's play some games or something, and is your immediate thought StarCraft 2v2 because it's pretty bad, or really any team game StarCraft isn't. It's not like super engaging, so you're gonna end up playing something that's probably a bit more fun, maybe with more than one friend. And I think Archon gives a reasonable way to get around 2v2 being impossible to balance, while also getting, as you said, that like pro player 1v1 type experience where you feel like you're doing a lot more than you normally could.
Mm-hmm.
What one thing I think that would be really cool, and it'd be like, I agree. Obviously, there can be some like gimmicky tournaments that'll happen every once in a while. I just question the longevity of it and the consistency of being able to run tournaments. But maybe they'll do something with the automated tournament system. What I think would be cool is to get 2 lower skilled people, like maybe 2 master players, and then put them up against a pro, and then see like how they would do. So
Oh, like
one
2v1.
person, yeah. So like
That'd be
2v1, but they don't get like the innate, like you can't do like 2 master players that have 2 bases and start with the
Yeah,
twice
yeah.
as many workers, because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
just gonna wreck a pro. But if you take 2 masters players and you put them up against a really good pro, it probably would actually be pretty close, and that would be really fun to see, I think.
Mhm.
Or even just 2 foreigners, like 2 lower level pro foreigners, and then like invite a really good Korean, and then say like, okay, you guys are gonna play here, and then just see. I mean, it might be embarrassing for the foreigners if they lose, but still, it'd be funny.
Oh yeah, for
It'd be
sure.
like that Flash meme where he's talking about LOL or whatever.
Mhm.
The 5 guys on the other team, or the one guy controlling the 5 players on the other team, did pretty okay, I guess. Like,
What about you as a tournament organizer, Rifkin?
well, jokes about the prize pool aside, I always look for something different. I mean, you'll notice like no two of our tournaments have ever really been run the same, just because I
Mhm.
like shaking it up and trying to find what looks different and weird. So I mean, I'm absolutely going to jump on the train of trying something with Archon mode, whether it proves to be cool or not. That is going to just have to remain to be seen. But even then, like recently, they threw a I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Like, there was a 2v2 tournament recently, though. We haven't seen 2v2 tournaments in forever, but this thing got a lot of hype. I think Morrow had like 2,000 viewers just streaming it first person with him and Beastie. I hopped on for a little bit of that. Like, it was really interesting how they set it up. So I think that there's definitely potential for these things to, as HuK said, maybe just flavor of the month once in a while, or they could be a regular thing. I don't know. I'm just excited that there's now options, right? You're not just
Mhm.
stuck with one no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So one last part that we haven't talked about. We talked about the casual. We talked about HuK, being a pro, not really liking it. As a streamer, I think like this is really what's gonna change the game, because when you're playing 1v1, you can't really commentate, because there's so much to do. You play Archon mode, and one can focus on macro. Both can discuss their thoughts on like what they're scouting, what they should be doing, and they like sort of like work as a pair to educate their audience. It does cross promotion because right now there's nothing going on between streamers at all. I do sub wars every once in a while. You do 2v2s with Crank. HuK will do team games with Smix. Livy the vibe. But outside of that, there's really nothing. The 2v2s that you mentioned, but very rare. So I think, HuK, what do you think? Will you be more inclined, let's say, to do like Archon mode with in control? Carry him on your back, which in real life would never happen.
I don't know. That's just I'm not gonna answer that.
The carrying part, or
Yeah, the weight question.
yeah, come on, it comes from me. But the point, my question is valid.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard to see. I like I said, it's not like I wouldn't play it or play it from time to time. I just don't see it's like the least thing I'm excited about everything that was announced this weekend, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think as well, it's the one thing you probably don't have to practice that much for either. I mean, you yourself could probably just walk into it, be no problem, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said in Brood War, we had this like a very similar thing that was teamily, and you just controlled the same base, and it was fun and all, but it was like once in 3 months, like once in 3 months, I'd play a game of it or something with friends or whatever, and it's just hard to imagine for myself something I'd get excited about.
Okay.
If there's a tournament or something, I'd probably still play,
Okay.
but
I would kind of agree with HuK though. Like, it's cool and I'm hyped for it, but it is definitely the thing I'm like least hyped about because all the other changes and announcements I thought were like way cooler.
Yeah.
What about the co-op campaign, man? Isn't that your least hyped?
No, I think that's really really cool because people have been going out of their way to like make mods for co-oping the current campaign and stuff, man. Like, I
Yes.
think that's awesome.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
very true.
like that left to die thing, man. Like that mission when I first played in the campaign, I'm like, this is something that'd be sick to play with someone else. And then they put out like that custom map and like, stuff like more co-op-y stuff is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Moving on to the next point, automated tournaments, scheduled daily. Now, I don't know if daily is really the way to go. So basically, what they're planning on doing is every day you'll be able to compete in a tournament, and they want it to last from 2 to 4 hours. Daily could be too repetitive. The format they use in Warcraft 3 for maybe HuK and some of you guys that don't know, it was a calendar. So on Tuesdays you had undead versus undead. On Wednesdays you had 3v3. On Thursdays you had 4v4s. 1v1 random. 1v1, let's say, overgrowth. Only overgrowth for the whole tournament. And their format was you just play round robin. You just go and after your 7-0, you'll put them in a bracket. They didn't say exactly what kind of form. Oh no, yes, they did say they want to do groups. All right, so they want to do groups because they want people to practice. They want to prepare for. They want to give people the tournament experience. So practicing, preparing for a race, preparing for a matchup, and yeah, your thoughts, Rifkin, on the automated tournament.
Well, for me personally, I'm kind of hoping that, and I asked about this with no definitive answer, just maybes from all the people at Blizzard, but I was kind of hoping they implement something like a drop-in feature, kind of like what League of Legends has, where you can just observe games that are going on. You don't have to like necessarily be friends with the person or have been in the lobby for it to start. You just like hop in at any point and observe on like that 5-minute delay. I think if they pair that up with this automated tournament, I think that's gonna be really cool. Because maybe you get knocked out early. Maybe you want to be like me and stream it and cast it. I don't know, but like the options for what they're doing for this are apparently still a little bit up in the air, like as far as what they're gonna add to it. But I think the tournament itself is kind of cool for players. I know that I was really bad at Warcraft 3. I was that guy who just went like all archer, night elf, like really terrible player. And I played in those every single time until I got
Yeah.
like 03 and knocked out. Like they were fun. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, but there's something fun about it. So I think it's a really cool implementation.
I wanted to go back to you. So you said the feature to drop in. Hopefully, with Heroes of the Storm, we get a little bit of love, because that's definitely something they would want to include for Heroes of the Storm as well, which works on the same engine. HuK, your thoughts as someone who's probably never going to play in any of those?
Play in any of what?
I don't think you'd play for like if it's no money, right?
Yeah, but are they not doing like I don't know if they even should have money, but like some sort of prize, even if it's just
they'll have
Like portraits or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I don't know. I would maybe play it. I think it'd be exciting to. I don't. It really depends. Is it segregated at all, or is it literally
That's
just going to be one tournament for everybody?
That's a very good question.
It's
Like I
probably by
said,
region. I mean,
Yeah.
No, no, no,
just
I mean,
literally anybody can sign up.
skill-wise.
no, yeah, league. So
Oh,
So are you gonna have like some bronze player playing against a master player round one and just getting stomped over and over again every time he signs up for the tournament? Like that's not gonna be fun. They obviously have to find a way to segregate it where they hold like why not? I hate the idea of them doing it racially and saying like okay today's the Protoss versus Protoss day. That's stupid. I never would sign up for that. But maybe do days where it's like Mondays this league, Tuesdays this league, Wednesdays this league, whatever.
Well,
blah 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 blah.
I think it probably implemented something similar to the ladder, like because you're all in those stupid groups for ladder, like Whiskey Bravo Delta or whatever. So maybe it's just something like you get queued against those people. I mean, I don't know I missed the panel. I don't know the specifics.
they
of it.
didn't specify. They just said it would be groups, so you could prepare for a race, and they didn't say if it was. They weren't sure if they were going to do best of 3 or best of 1 because they wanted to last between 2 to 4 hours.
Probably best of one then. I wouldn't imagine it being any more. My ideal situation would be that they do it obviously with it's segregated league wise, but they have the rewards for the portraits or whatever, and they can run it maybe however many times a week, and then maybe like at the end of a month have like a slightly bigger prize. Obviously nothing huge. They invest so much into esports anyways, but maybe like a flight or plus hotel or something to like IEM San Jose or to
Yeah,
a
that could
Red
be.
Bull event or something like that.
yeah.
So they take all the winners from the weekly cup or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then they throw them into another one, and then
Yeah.
they
That could-
have that
Yeah, that could be a nice way to wrap up a season, a ladder
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
it's not a lot of investment, and I think it would really get people motivated to play it and more passionate about actually practicing and having a goal. Because like 99% of people, they have no goal. They're literally just practicing to practice to get better, which is fun and everything. But when you have like a prize, just a treasure chest at the end of the rainbow, where you're like, that's what I could get if I really worked hard. Then I don't know. I think people would be more motivated.
Yes. What about you, Nathanias? Your thoughts on automated tournament?
I mean, I'm all for the variety and making it interesting or whatever. I think the last request, I think that's like, there's absolutely no way that this automated tournament thing is designed for anybody that is on a pro level. Like, to me, I see this as like, hey, we're gonna make it so if you get X number of finishes in a weekly, at some point, or you get certain number of tournament wins and you get portraits. This tournament thing seems like just a good way to keep people that log on and don't really do anything, or people that have ladder anxiety to get them to play the game. Like I'd be really blown away if there was anything ever more than just like a certain number of win portrait. Like
When I meant for the ticket in the hotel, I meant as like a fan. not as a like a
Yo,
professional player, like a
what
fan
if?
just to go watch. Not
I think it
Oh.
makes more sense for it to be like win a month, like win a subscription to like WCS, like because you're
Guys,
gonna actually giving stuff for something like that it seems it is a bit absurd.
what
Yes.
if? What if? And hear me out. What if they actually implement skins in Legacy of the Void, right? And like then you get like a cool ass skin for being like the top tournament player. He does that with the stupid like Victoria skins or whatever. Like you reach a certain
Yeah.
like rank at the end of the
Certain
season. Like
ones.
that would be really cool. I think to have like maybe Marines with silver shoulder pads or something dumb. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything insanely game breaking or expensive like a big ticket to somewhere or someplace or an event, but there's definitely a lot of stuff they could do in game that I don't think it would cost them much that a lot of people would strive for.
Well, it comes again down to whatever engine stuff they have going on that makes it difficult for them to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably won't do skins or whatever, but even just portraits, like there's always
That's
cosmetic stuff.
yeah, the skin thing was like to me it was the biggest thing that they dropped the ball on as far as talking about it at Legacy of the Void, like all the panels, because
Yeah.
from what I've heard, and I wasn't able to watch the panels live because I was casting, but they didn't. It wasn't mentioned at all,
No.
or like maybe someone asked about it and they're like, we don't know because of the engine.
No. Someone asked and they're like, it's not possible because it would make the systems lag because of team games.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that part, I'd like to hear a good explanation because I really think that with the way modern PCs work, like
Well, what I'm thinking here is like they already have some skins in the game that aren't easily accessed. So maybe it's like you never could afford that original collector's edition of Wings of Liberty, but you want to have a cool ass Thor like Nathanias. Like that could just be something they award, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it'd only ever be like one or two at a time, right? It's not like you'd be handing out hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. People like HuK and a few others at Blizzard. Well, not a few others. Someone else at Blizzard. I won't name any names. Don't believe in the skins. I think if they were to sell the Tor and the Ultralisk for like $5 each, just to like get a response on how popular skins actually are, because I'd buy the fucking Tor and the Ultralisk if I could. I'm not gonna go buy a collector's edition and make a second account, or well, actually a third account in that case. But yeah, definitely agree with Nathanias. The only downside I feel to this weekend of announcements is really the skins. Because I know David Kim has a lot of passion, but he doesn't. His salary is not paid an amount of passion; it's paid an amount of dollars. And the best way to keep people working at Blizzard on StarCraft 2 is with skins, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see what comes up. Any thoughts? I know, Chris, you don't agree with the skins. You wanna explain to our audience?
I've actually talked to a few people about this. Obviously, some names at Blizzard. There's more at Blizzard, but I mean, I've also talked to just prominent community members. I don't know if he minds or not, but I've talked to Victor Goosens a lot about it, and I think he's a pretty intelligent guy when it comes to this kind of stuff. He agrees wholeheartedly that skins, it's just not a viable thing. It's not I'm gonna pretty much try to quote his TLDR, but when you play Dota or LoL, there's a lot of people that have their favorite champion, right?
Yes.
And they have, like, I know Victor's, it's a Bloodseeker, right? So he feels personally attached to this one hero. So he, of course, gets, like, the skins, the, like, little portrait things, whatever the hell they sell in these games, right? Or whether it be LoL or whatever, right? But in StarCraft 2, you don't really have a personal connection to a specific unit. Like, sure, I like Stalkers a lot, I like DTs a lot, I like whatever a lot. I like a lot of units, but I play Protoss, which is a wide variety of different things and units and whatever, and I don't have a particular personal connection to one unit. And I'm not going to make one unit every single game and win with that one unit or whatever. So there's not really that personal connection to units, and you're not identified with that hero, where there's a lot of even professional players that have, a big pool of champions they play. There's still pro LoL players and pro Dota players that are really connected to one hero, like Peke, when he backdoored and he's connected to that one hero. Or you take I don't know Dota players, but there's a lot of Dota players that are connected really well to one hero, and I just don't see that personal connection. I'm not saying they won't sell. Sure, of course they're gonna sell, but it's gonna be like less than 1/10 the amount that it would sell in LoL or Dota, and I don't see it being worthwhile.
Well, I don't. I mean, I get this whole skin talk is kind of like it's not gonna happen. So we're just fantasizing here. But I mean, like for example, if there was a Ninja Probe skin made after HuK, like yo, I would buy the shit out of that. Because like every time I ever see HuK play or cast him, it's like he's always the guy with the sneaky probes around the map where he
Yes.
shouldn't have them. You know, like players do have associations whether they realize it or not. And oh crap, I gotta get the door. I'm sorry, I'll be right back.
But
Oh.
but go ahead, Nate.
I take this time to chime in and say that I'm just disappointed that they like made this thing about skins last year. But honestly,
Wait, what do you mean?
if I could
last
have
year?
if I could have had the dev team like make the balance changes and stuff to Legacy of the Void or make skins, I'm much more happy with them actually fixing the real game itself.
Yeah,
I think it's a much better way to spend your resources on the game than skins.
even if you could relate me to a probe, like he said, maybe that's possible, and a lot of the really old players could relate to that if they're like been fans or following the game for a long time. But it still doesn't change that 99% of the players out there can't relate to a specific unit that is like their unit. That there's players in LoL and Dota that literally play like 1 to 3 champions, and that's like 90% of their gameplay is they just keep playing those champions because they
dude.
like those.
That's how I play, yeah.
And that's not the same thing in StarCraft 2.
That's not true. I know plenty of
That
lower
it
league,
is true.
I know plenty of lower league people that like, oh, I always win with DTs. I always make them. I always go for them. And like, even though you need variety and you need to be flexible, in StarCraft 2, there's still some people that really love to rely on, like I always do so well with my War Prism, and then they get like a shiny War Prism, golden crusted or whatever, like.
But it's not the same level as
Yeah,
LoL or
yeah, I
Dota.
agree.
It's not going to be successful because that's the number one argument that everybody's saying is I agree that StarCraft 2 is going to be in rough shape, 2 years from now maybe. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. I mean, Brood War didn't have any of this and it was very successful. But the incentive for Blizzard to keep investing into StarCraft 2 after Legacy of the Void, which is the last expansion, is little to none because they can't rely on sales and they can't make money. So people think that, and then they think, oh, we need skins because that'll make them money, and then they'll keep investing in StarCraft 2. But it's just not going to be the same thing. That's not where Blizzard's going to make money. It's a pointless argument. It's not going to happen, so it's pointless already, but it's also just not... It would never sell well enough where Blizzard would give a shit. So...
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hopefully someone can link us this Remax VOD a year from now, and then I was right, and Blizzard comes out with skins, just like it happened last week. That'd be great.
That didn't happen. Even if they came out for skins,
Yes.
you gotta equate like how much man hours they were to put into making those skins, and then compare that to what if they invested those people doing something else. And Blizzard's really, really good at doing other things. Heroes is a good game where they can sell skins, or Heroes or whatever. That's the perfect type of game because people will play the same hero over and over again. But StarCraft 2 and RTS in general just isn't that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Rifkin gets stabbed opening the door. Campaign co-op. Basically, you're gonna be able to do adventure modes, controlling signature characters of the StarCraft franchise. So you'll be, I don't know if it'll be like an RPG type thing where you're like controlling an army plus, let's say, maybe Jim Raynor or something like that. But it'll be basically a bunch of campaign missions that you can play with your friends. Nathanias, your thoughts on that?
Sounds cool. I don't know if like I was more focused on like the multiplayer stuff throughout the whole weekend. So the more stuff you can do with other people, the better, because StarCraft is a very lonely game.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
I agree.
That's one of the most lonely experiences that you can really get if you're playing matchmaking or anything.
Rifkin, your thoughts on the campaign co-op?
So it was like knock some stuff over on my way out. Campaign co-op, I think sounds really cool. I personally, I don't know about you guys, maybe you already covered it, but like I spend a lot of time on Steam looking for like co-op games to play with friends.
Yeah.
And I am really stoked that there's co-op mode for this. I mean, I'm probably gonna play it solo first and then try co-op after, just for the sake of it. But I love co-op anything really.
Okay. Chris, what about you? I know you play a lot of co-op stuff.
Yep, exactly what Rifkin says. I play with I got my little crew. It's me, Sue, Jinro, and
And me.
April.
Yeah.
No, you're not in the little crew. See, the thing is, a lot of games it's 4 max,
Yes.
it's 1 to 4 players. So we play I mean I don't know. We played Hammer Watch.
Oh my god, I hate that game. By the way,
Really?
we finished it. They're like, oh, by the way,
we
you need those
grinded.
stupid ladders. Like,
Oh no, I just googled it and it seemed really pointless, and then I was like, no, we're not playing this whole shit again.
yeah,
Because it was really long, really long. So I play I can't remember what this other game we did with the little ball. Maybe someone saw the stream that I think Sue did, but we play all those games, and I think we played a game. What is it? Left to Die or Left for Die or some shit like this.
Left to Die, man.
Left to Die in the co-op thing in the StarCraft 2, and that was the funnest game that we really enjoyed. But it was only 2 players. Even if it's still 2 players, I'd love to play with Hater or whoever and just dick around and yell at them for sucking. But not you, desRow. Don't get your hopes up. But yeah, it's really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Personally, finding a friend is hard, and when it happens, when you think it's HuK and you get your hopes up and it doesn't happen, it's sad. But playing with friends is always fun. All right, moving on. So we're gonna talk about the multiplayer changes for Legacy of the Void. There's 20 minutes left before HuK has to go. Not sure if we'll cover everything. And then so the biggest change, which so you guys, HuK doesn't really count because he was hungover and he woke up late, but me and Rifkin, we got in at BlizzCon, and then there was the stations, right? And the stations for the public area, you could only play Archon mode. There was no 1v1, so we were like, all right. So there's 12 workers because you're playing with 2 people just to speed things up.
That was you and Sup, because I remember we ran into you afterwards and we asked about this, and you thought that was for BlizzCon, yeah.
They only let you guys play Archon mode?
Yeah.
No.
And the public no.
You could ask. There's 3 sections set up. There was single player versus AI. There was 1v1s as Archon. So you may have just been thrown into a bad one by a mistake.
But anyway, at first I thought it was 12 workers just to speed things up. And then once we realized it was 12 workers, holy shit! It's you I think you cut the probe and you make your Panon and your Overlord right away. For the Terran, it's a little bit different because they're at 15 instead of 14. And it's really the biggest change. Mineral patches down to 1,000 minerals, gas down to 1,700 instead of 2,500, and you start with 12 workers. There was a little bit of misconception that it was 12 max for the efficiency, but no, it's still 16, but you start with 12. Your thoughts, Nathanias?
Dude, it's sick, man. I don't know. I getting to play it. You mine out your bases so fast, especially as a Terran, because let me tell you, going for an in-base expand will actually cause you to mine out your main base. If you drop
mule.
1 or 2 mules, really that's all it takes in your main base from another command center that isn't, So basically you're mining out your main. Fastest I think is you could be mining out around 9 minutes if you don't immediately expand. If you do not immediately take your natural, you're mining out around 10, generally right before 10 minutes. And because of the way that it works, if you take a really quick expansion, then both bases are pretty much mining out close to the same time because you're going to want to meal your natural. So I think it's really difficult in Legacy of the Void, based on the games that I played, to maintain a 3-base economy. Because obviously your opponent isn't gonna not do anything to you for the start of the game, because a lot of the units are really a lot of the units that have been added are really good at doing harassing or poking of some kind, but also because they have a similar pressure on them. So you're either forced to decide early on that you really want to commit to an attack, but you can't really be in between a lot. I feel like if you try to play 2 in between, or if you try to play 3-base turtly, you're just gonna lose the game after you get 1 or 2 bad trades, because you're not gonna bank up anywhere near as much as you used to. Mm-hmm. So I really like the pressure to expand because it opens up harassment opportunities for both players, and the lack of resources makes all-ins much more committed to the point where recovering from a failed all-in will actually require you to make some really good plays, and it's not just going to be like, well, my attack failed, let me just warp in some sentries and build up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll just take a really late third and try to grind it out. Like that's not going to be an option from like what I've seen in this.
So speaking of failed all-in, HuK, your thoughts?
Ooh.
What? Okay. Don't know what to say to that, but you know my thoughts. I was one of those people that I didn't play it, and then I was told what it was, and I was told the misconception that it was like 12 workers max per thing, or the best saturation was at 12, which I actually was way more excited for, because I feel like yes, it's going to be a lot harder to stay on 3 bases, because you're going to have to think about the future a lot earlier and take bases quicker rate than you did in the past. Where like right now, any pro player that you have 3 full mining bases, you're like, well, I don't have to take a 4th for a bit. It's actually wasteful just to take a 4th unless I just want more gas. I liked it more where possibly you could only have 12 per base. Like they literally capped it, where it was inefficient, or the perfect saturation was at 12, because I feel like that was even a bigger change, and it would cause people to have to expo even more.
But they'd have to cut down 2 patches. And I actually asked David Kim, and he dodged me so hard. He just said like, oh, it's a misconception people have. No, we're just trying to force people to expand. But
capping it, let's say theoretically they remove 2 mineral patches per bases, that would encourage people to expo more, right?
Yes, it's even more radical than it already is.
Yeah, so I really don't know. If I was David Kim, I would definitely play around with it and see. But I'm not, so I won't. But
is someone in your bed?
It's none of your business, desRow. And and yeah. So
is it the
go
dog?
to someone else now. No, it just don't worry about it. Why are you being so personal
Jesus,
here?
dude, come on.
What's kind of crazy is I didn't realize that this was like your chair is the perfect blocker.
It's fine. So yeah. We'll see. Either way, it is like I said, it's a step in the right direction the way it is now. I would just like to see, because like I always want to see, like I really want to see games where literally one person is at like 5 or 6 bases and the other person is only at 2 or 3 bases, and the person that's at 6 bases is just going to have a way bigger economy. And I feel like when you push people to take more bases and their economy actually gets a benefit more than 3 bases, controlling space and the strategy behind it is going to be a lot more in-depth than just making an army and attack. When you have to focus on locations and controlling those locations and controlling space and ground, it's a lot more complicated and beautiful game than it is just to say like, okay, I'm going to make these units, they're making these units, and then I'm going to go kill them. And they're going to have a good economy. I'm going to have a good economy, but I'm going to win this big battle, I know that's like a really dumbed down version, but I really believe in the way of more bases, better economy, and controlling space.
To explain a little bit to our audience what the 12 starting worker implies, also I covered it. I tested it. You, as a Protoss, you mine out around 12. And Nathanias said, obviously, since you're going to be inclined to expand, to take your natural a little bit faster, that one kind of mines out around 13, 14. If we go back to how it is right now, an all-in moves out around 10, maybe 9. But obviously your all-in will be a little bit faster. And so it will still give you like a 3 or 4 minute 2 all-in on 2 base. But there just won't be any room to recover because you'll have so many useless probes because everything is mining out so much quicker. Rifkin, I know as a caster you were really happy with the changes.
So, it's not like I dislike the first 5 minutes of the game, but objectively speaking, right now, they are kind of the most boring. Unless you see someone send a probe out right away to your opponent's base to do like a proxy, there's not a whole lot to talk about. You're like, okay, it's pretty standard stuff. This kind of just jumps ahead, and it might only shave off like say 2 minutes as far as like when the action begins in these games. In fact, I think it'll be more than that. But it does kind of cut down to the the more interesting points of the game. I mean, I can only tell you so many times that HuK is performing well in Copa America before I'm sick of saying it, before you're sick of hearing it, right? You'd much rather see like, oh wow, he went for that forge like really fast, or like, you know, taking 4 bases this early. How insane! Like, you don't really get a lot of that right now. So I think from an entertainment point of view, I think it does accelerate the game without like breaking it. Like there's no weird curvature. Like it's still that steady incline, but it's just kind of advanced from here to starting here.
Yeah. And one thing that's also nice, I just thought of since you mentioned that, and HuK's going to be a big fan too, is people like Tasteless and Artosis might run out of a job because they won't have time for banter early game. And they'll put the
What?
focus on the players. Since that's true. No
I think-
more Battletoad talks.
I think you're still gonna get banter though, dude. Like it's not like it becomes eliminated.
Yeah, I know, but it's a lot reduced. And one thing though, and Scarlett mentioned that she's very sad that there's just not going to be any proxy 2 racks, proxy 2 gates, anything like that. HuK, your thoughts as a pretty big cheeser yourself.
Okay. Why does she think this?
Because
Why-
you're starting
why
on
one-
12, man. It's so much easier to defend.
Don't
be
it'd be easier to do too because you're starting at 11 workers. So the cheeses will be different. It won't be like a 10-10 gate, but they'll just be different cheeses. I don't think cheeses are dead. It's just going to be different kind of cheeses. Like imagine if Zerg just immediately throws down gas pool and they have 12 workers already.
Yeah.
That's going to be insanely fast speedlings, baneling bus, roaches, whatever they want.
Yeah.
They'll still be cheeses. They're just going to be different because you start at 12 workers.
I think the defender's advantage is going to be so much bigger because of that.
I think it matters. I
don't
think
think
the
so.
defender's advantage question matters. Like, so scouting a cheese will obviously give you a better opportunity to react to it because you have just a stronger economy at the start of the game. So this comes to something that I was very happy about, and that's mostly because this I feel impacts bad players more than anybody else. Right? The kind of players that don't understand the concept of build up to 9 probes, then build a pylon, then keep building probes. They're gonna get stuck at like 10 probes. Someone who has never played the game, or they're gonna build a pylon at 6 supply. Like they don't understand the way that you play. But at the very least, starting with more workers makes it easier to accidentally do something like wall yourself in, or I don't know, like if someone just like immediately sends like 6 or 8 links to your base. Defending with 12 workers is going to be easier than with 6, obviously. So stuff like that I like, and because obviously the workers have not received any movement speed buffs, so the inherent limitations of proxy builds are still kind of there. But I think cheese is not going to go away. I think that's a pretty silly thing to say. Like, you could just start your supply depot at the very beginning of the game, move 2 workers out, and have the one that builds the depot go and just do a 3 racks instead of a 2 racks. Like, simple as that.
Exactly. Yeah. I think cheeses are actually going to become scarier in some instances because of this.
Cheeses are going to be. It's like the way that the economy changes have affected the game is all big all-in type pushes are going to be higher risk, but with the extra power that they'll have, maybe higher reward as well, or maybe. Because a lot of people in StarCraft, what do people always whine about? Oh, it's so fucking easy to attack, and if it's so much harder for the defending player. Well, now if you want to attack and you can't actually kill the guy, you're gonna be fucked. Like, simple as that. Like, you're all in. That's all. You don't pull in your chips out halfway through.
I think for what desRow was saying though, I think what this will do, the bigger workers, is it should at least eliminate in-base proxies. I would think it's gonna be so much easier
definitely.
to justify pulling your workers or even half of them, but. Yeah, like Nate said, like, can you imagine like a 3 racks paper proxy? Like the first thing that happens in the game, not like 5 minutes in, it's gonna be nuts. Actually, I'm actually just side note, really looking forward. I want to see the guy who like does the HuK proxies and then like builds the Reapers so he could grapple them all up to the high ground. Like,
Yeah, well, that stuff sounds really cool in theory, but that's the
probably
kind
not
of stuff.
efficient, but I'm just saying,
That's the kind of stuff that you're gonna see, like, I mean, like on some sort of Smurf stream where you're playing
What?
versus
No.
Goldmakers.
Look,
dude, even if it is, like, that's the cool stuff I'm looking forward to. Like when people battle cruiser proxy, like, yeah, it's usually versus some shitty player, but it's still funny to watch.
I feel like Terran has the most potential with the 12 worker because it was so hard to get up to 2 gas because you were so limited on SCV count. But since you started with 12, then you'll see more Terrans go 2 gas very quickly. Nathanias? I know it's very like far away, so speculation, but
Maybe.
maybe okay. Last topic about the economy before we move on. The maps, the way it works right now, and the way it's gonna be. Which map would you guys say is the one that would fit the most for Legacy of the Void? I know it's a very weird question. Like, so you want to go up? You have to go up to 5-6 bases. Are short maps still viable? Are because just to give an example to the audience, there was the 2v2 Archon mode show match with Jadong and Zest and so on, and Nimbus was mined out. Was like
That was whoever, I don't know who's casting. I hope it wasn't you, Nate, but that was a bullshit comment because as soon as they said that, the observer panned to like 3 of the bases that were supposed to be mined out, the minerals were still there. So
I
okay,
didn't
but,
count-
but,
they
no,
didn't-
but
they
the
the,
didn't-
comment that you're referring,
Yeah,
they said at like
let
20
us
minutes they were like most of the maps mined out or half of the maps mined out or something like
no,
that.
but they
and that
were
was
fight. No,
bullshit.
no, but they were totally split. Like everything was taken, and there was like 2 expo left to grab at 20 minutes. So like by 20 minutes,
But
you've
it
got
doesn't-
like
But it doesn't really matter when
6 base.
when like yeah, but they were on like 4 or 5 base for one, and for two there were still like 2 or 3 bases to take on each side of the map, and most of the bases that they
What?
had and were mining from weren't even close to being mined out. So like this example of like the 20 minutes, like the map is split and almost all the bases are taken, was bullshit.
No,
Sorry.
I
So
just
let me blow your mind here. You know, this is the part where I point out that there's like a triangle on the pylon or some shit, and this is some Illuminati. Actually, I already noticed you have the Illuminati symbol behind the Remax logo, desRow. But
Do I? Oh yeah, that's
you
true.
know, imagine a map like Overgrowth, and it's a really small map. There's not a lot of bases, and as you said, in Legacy of the Void, you're kind of naturally pushed to expand, take bases. And I envision a scenario where some of the coolest games that we've seen, some of the scrappiest games in StarCraft 2, come out of low econ situations that generally are like a Zerg player, like Roachbane busts a Terran, and the Terran loses most of his workers, and then the game like drags out with both players like barely fighting with scraps of economy, and it's like trading small units and cute micro blah 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 bullshit. Those things are going to kind of happen more naturally, like these situations where it's harder to max out, unless you're on really big maps where taking those bases is easy. So, like I feel that with smaller maps especially, the focus on all these units being like harassment based and Legacy of the Void that we've seen, I think it's gonna force it's going back to that less of a death ball thing, but any small map, like it's gonna be actually quite difficult to just max out if your opponent is utilizing the options that are being added, in any way, really.
So is that the direction you think they want to take? Because if we go back to Brood War, hold on. If we go back to Brood War, Lelouch actually
Small
made
fights all over the
no,
map.
no. Lelouch made an article where there was a very small percentage of games where players actually got to max out. So if you force players to go up to 4 or 5 bases and you make the map smaller, then the odds of having a game where you max out is smaller. So Nathanias, do you want that? Do you want it to go in that direction, or you want bigger maps?
I think it'd be. I mean, we obviously haven't
Both?
seen what the actual units are. Like, there's places for both, right?
Yeah.
If you're on a giant map where defending is easier, of course, there's going to be a higher chance that you max out, and you're gonna see like that somebody actually reach like this crazy army where they get a bunch of fucking carriers and tempests, and it's gonna be like, yeah, this doesn't happen often because on small maps it's almost impossible to do. And then on all the smaller maps you're gonna have some guy with like fucking like 2 cyclones on harassing a dude's fucking 4th base while he's trying to dodge lurkers or some shit camping out. I don't know, like. It just feels like it's gonna be so much more difficult to max out that you're gonna focus more on harassing so that you can build your supply up more quickly than the other guy. Like, which kind of feels like a strategy game now rather than a, hey, did I get supply blocked for too long and max out a minute later or some shit.
Very true.
I
Rifkin.
feel like strategy is gonna be much more important.
Rifkin.
I agree with what Nate's saying, but I also want to bring up the show matches. Like, I know they weren't a great example because the first 2 were so imba for Terran, but was it MC and Hyun versus Joxy and Stardust? Like, okay, that was really one-sided, Terran player, this, that, the other, but like nobody talked about how it was like 10 minutes in the game, and I think MC and Hyun had like, I don't know, 6 bases. Like it was maybe not the scenario where HuK's like, okay, I don't think it's gonna get this far, and it's because they were kind of left unhindered that they were able to expand so much. But the point is, like, you can do this, and I don't think that should be overlooked. If you guys like need an example of just watching it, like go fast forward through the video. Don't even watch the show match if they got the VODs up. Just watch the mini map, how quickly they expand, how fast it gets out of control. And that was only on a map like Frost. Like if they decide to go big again, because Blizzard was going really big for a while, can you imagine like bigger maps than Ultra Zim? Like that's gonna be ridiculous. So I don't really know how they plan to go for it, but I think the expansions are gonna be really cool. I'm actually really excited, whether it's a lot or a little. It's definitely going to influence the game like a hell of a lot more than it does right now.
What about you, Chris? Smaller or big?
Even if, like you said, even if they have 6 bases at 10 minutes, with the way the economy works, they're still mining the same amount if they had 3 bases compared to 6, or even. What do you mean? No, it's the same thing, right?
I think people are a little too set on this idea that you can't effectively make use of the resources of more than 3 bases. Especially for that has the least impact on Terran, because most of our good units currently in the metagame that we're assuming these changes would really affect is all mineral units. But like Protoss and Zerg having access, like the gas income rate will change drastically to the point where I really feel like
workers
I
still
feel like
mine
it's
the
still
same,
gonna
don't
happen.
they?
Yeah, but there's less per base, right? Like,
yeah,
so
you can.
But I'm saying 10 minutes, like the example you said, 10 minutes into a game, they have 6 bases. Theoretically, like they're mining the same. Yeah, well, they're mining the same. So if you're on 6 bases and you have your workers spread a little bit more, like let's say you're at 60, 70 workers, which is going to be the max amount of workers you're going to want to have in most games, besides maybe Terran, where you have mules, like you said. When you can rely on mules, that changes everything. But ideally for Protoss or Zerg, except certain situations, you're going to want to go even more as Zerg. But whether you're mining on three bases with max, like let's say 16, 16, 16, and 6 in each, all the gases, etc., you're hitting that max worker efficiency. So if you're instead of 16, 16, 16, if you're at 10, 10, 10, 18, it's going to be the same amount.
There's a big
no. Is it not? Yes or no?
I'm just saying no, but hang on, let me just make this point. Units are going to cost, like the new units cost so very much different. Like the Devastator, whatever it's called, for the Protoss, it's 300 gas. Like this isn't something, or sorry, whatever it's called. It costs 300 gas, so it's not something you're going to be able to easily afford, much less make a ton of, right? So it's one of those situations where maybe you're taking those extra bases, but it's not about the mineral efficiency. It's just about taking extra guys.
I agree, but that's already the case now. That's the case now. That gas is more important than minerals. In Protoss and Terran, well, maybe less Terran depending on the matchup, but definitely for Protoss and Zerg in like 80 to 90% of the cases.
Yeah,
Zerg needs the gas.
Protoss. So if you could put 16 workers on 3 bases or 10 workers on 4 or 5 bases, but you also have those extra gases, like it's not like Legacy of the Void. Zealots are going to be the end-all be-all unit where I can turtle in 3 bases because I have the same amount of economy, so I can mass 100 fucking Zealots and win the game. No,
but that's the case now. It's the same. It's the same now. If you can take more bases for the gases, that's great. But that doesn't.
It will have an impact on the way that you can.
But it's not changing. My point is the economy's like that. That point of the economy is staying the same. You still mine the same rate. Like as Protoss, if I can take an extra base.
This is something that can only be properly, I think, evaluated after we've been able to play like a couple hundred games on these, because I personally feel from what I've seen and the way that I've seen it affects the games with the unit costs especially. I think there's going to be a dramatic difference in the way that bases are built, armies are set up.
But that's the same case now. You never make mineral-based units unless you have to as Protoss.
I want to give you an example.
You want Sentries, Colossus, Storm.
Exactly. Look, Colossus have less range now, right? It's not by a lot, but it's by a little. So like, let's assume that suddenly this one range change makes it so that you're going to be losing a lot more Colossus than normal. Thus, you're going to have to build a lot more, which means you're going to need maybe, let's say, 1.5 to 2 times as much gas as you do already. Like, I think there's gonna be a lot more throwing units away in Legacy of the Void, so you're gonna have to like make more, and I think that's where this economy comes in. But I agree with Nate. Like it's really not something like we can theory craft all day, but until we see it in action, there's not really gonna be any definitive like answer to this. But I just think that with the way they've changed units, like whether it's subtle or whether it's like removing a hardened shield from an immortal, like you're gonna have to put so many more immortals now. Like one's not gonna cut it versus a roach army. So I
One
think
doesn't cut it now.
okay, bad example. My point is though, like they're changing so much about other units that already exist that I think we're gonna see more units thrown away than normal. So you're gonna have to
Well,
build.
I agree. Like, there's no concept of unit versus unit, but the economy is essentially the same. If you're, like I said, if you're on 6 bases and you're mining
I
it a
think
lot less,
you
besides
just
like
really
the
want
gas.
this 12 worker thing, right?
No,
That's like
no,
your big thing.
no. Well, of course I do, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about now. I'm just saying, right now, as any race, if you have more bases, even if you're not mining them efficiently, if you only have 2 or 3 workers there, you're mainly taking them for the gas. And if you take extra bases as a professional player in Legacy of the Void, as it is now, the only reason you would take more bases is for the gases. But that's not different from
Well,
now.
I mean, aside from your bases mining out, your other ones.
Yes, of course. Like, you always want the 16, 16, 16,
Yeah,
3 base
66,
mineral
Yeah.
economy. And then on top of that, if you have more gases, like if you can trade a little bit less on minerals and have a little bit more on gas by taking extra base, yeah, that's great for like 90% of the situations. But the way Legacy of the Void is now, that doesn't change at all. It's the same as it is now. If you could take more bases to have more gas, you will. But if you're already on the perfect mineral composition, you won't feel the need to take another base. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not any different. Like the timing of it is going to change, obviously,
I
with the
I
way that you
understand
mine
that-
out quicker.
I
But
understand that the math doesn't change, but the impact of having to take those bases because you're mining out and the access to
Obviously.
the gas,
the timing
unless-
of it will change.
the game itself doesn't change at all if neither player wants to harass each other because they're forced to expand more, right? So, like,
I agree.
I think when we see it in practice, and maybe they'll make other changes to the way that the economy works, but like, I feel the overall impact is still pretty positive, even if it's not the 12 worker saturation thing.
Well, that's one thing that I brought up to David Kim, and I'm really sad he dodged. But so Lelouch was pushing 7 patch, 1 gas. The gas thing, I don't feel it needs to be changed. And there was a map in Pro League with 7-1 for a very long time, but like one thing that HuK brings up is like if you have 12 workers per base, killing workers is even more meaningful. Because you kill 16, you kill 4, well, okay, shit, I'm not good at math or percentage, but it's less meaningful than if you kill 4 and you've got 12 mining on minerals for that base. And so, since 66 is about the optimal amount, yeah, you're just moving them to a new base, you're kind of like starved if you don't get your 4th going, but it's still sort of the same of having like 3 base mining the whole game. It's just those bases are being relocated. Those 3 mining bases are being relocated somewhere, and you're fighting for survival a bit. So there's definitely, David Kim, there's a lot he can do, and it's very flexible situation right now. Hopefully he's open-minded. I think it's just a right step in the right direction. David Kim being willing to go up to 12 workers and cut down on the amount of resources you have per base. It's a step in the right direction. Is it the right one? We'll need more games, and hopefully he has the time and he's not too lazy to go back and be even more crazy and do 6 patches or whatever. Any final thoughts, Rifkin? You didn't get to talk much.
I just with all this stuff about like what the best saturation is, whether it's the same or not. I mean, I think I'm kind of on this stance of agree to disagree, but I'm so focused on, I guess, all the unit changes. Like, obviously, they might not keep everything, and especially the new units are going to get changed. So, I mean, all this mineral stuff is cool, but at the end of the day, like, I guess, if the meta changes where Marines are no longer the best thing to make for Terran players, then that changes fucking everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with, like, compositions for what counters what. So, I don't know. I'm just excited to honestly sit back and enjoy the ride, watch what happens as the pros slug it out, and sit back in my shitty little diamond world over here.
Yeah. All right, so we'll cover the Protoss changes before HuK has to go. I know you wanted to do an hour, and we're gonna stretch it a little, which is convenient for my next set of guests as well. Is that okay, Chris?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
I have a little bit.
All right, nice. All right, let's start with The new unit, which is me and HuK actually had a video. We had a sit down at BlizzCon. So if you watch that, it's gonna be some sort of the same talk, but then maybe Nathanias and Rifkin have a different take on it. So the new unit, the Disruptor, a very fatty unit, more fat than an Archon, which makes it, sometimes it struggles to get in a mineral line. It also, I don't know how many could fit on a ramp. I actually didn't test that. I'm a dummy. But basically what it does is it goes invulnerable when you charge it, and 4 seconds later it does the damage of 2 storms. Nathanias, do you know exactly how much? I forgot. It's like 160?
165 or something like that.
Okay, and so it does a radius. It does a lot of damage in a radius. I'll try to get it up on the screen for you guys. But Nathanias, your first thought when you saw the Disruptor, were you inspired? Were you happy? Tell us more.
The Disruptor's a really weird unit. Like, it clumps up super easily if you're using multiple of them. Like, you can't really A move them or whatever. Like, because the whole point is you trigger them, and then they have, like, X number of seconds. You can micro them while they're invulnerable, and they move really fucking fast. And then obviously they reach the point, then they detonate, and it'll pretty much slaughter any clump of units, like, really easily. So, I like this when I look at things like the Colossus nerf, because it's like you would get into a fight, and if you micro them, because you can like shift Q right there, you can actually Todd was like messing around with this, you can shift Q them after you've like triggered them to go active. So you could, there's like, I guess that's kind of what they were talking about, the whole micro thing. So you could split them in a way that you could run like an invulnerable one behind their army as they're retreating. So you could predict where they're gonna split their units and shit, and then like 2 or 3 in an army could be really devastating. Like I'm thinking about this in the context of, like, versus a bio ball, because obviously nothing like EMP or anything is gonna do shit versus it, because it's a triggered ability and it's not doesn't like cost energy or whatever, and like I said, they're invulnerable. So I like the idea of that, and then I also, it pretty much feels like it's like fucking people talk about like this Reaver drop shit with the way the Warp Prism works. Like, you drop it, you trigger it, runs into your mineral line. If you don't react fast enough, because it'll outrun your workers anyway, like you need to instantly split them all perfectly, because you got like Widow Mine radius too on it. Like you lose one will clear like half a mineral line pretty easily. So, and then it can get right back into the Warp Prism very easily, because the Warp Prism has such a huge radius for like getting into it now. So I really like it in the sense that it's like, if you were to go drop it, it's high risk, high reward, and I see you like playing the video on like the stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it fucks shit up.
Yeah, I feel like
it's actually like the definition of anti-death ball.
I was watching HuK play, and he had this army of Marauders, Marines, and tanks clumped up. He looks away for 1 second, comes back, and his whole army's just gone. Like, it's so dangerous. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. By the way, some of these videos are, some of them are very misleading. I don't know if, I forgot which part. I think it's the Corruptor. Yeah, the Corruptor was, someone goofed.
Dude, no, you know what they did? I think they had a Nexus that was low, so the second the shields broke on it, like, it just died. It made it look so much more powerful than it was.
Yeah, probably. HuK, your thoughts on Disruptor? Sorry, Rifkin.
I really like the Disruptor. I think it's really cool. It's going to be a lot of fun, etc. The only problem is like I said before in the interview we did, is I feel like it overlaps in its usefulness, as far as like, if I have the Disruptor, why would I ever make this Storm, basically?
Yes.
Why, like, it's either Storm's better or this is better, but they both fill the same gap.
Then all the guys that whine about EMP and how slow Templar are.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Now why would I ever make High Templar, besides for feedback? But I would never get Storm. Like, why would I ever research Storm at this point? It's this but worse in every way. It's slower, it's less accurate. The only thing is a cast from range, but realistically it's not worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know this is gonna be such an unpopular opinion here. I kind of hope they give it friendly fire though, because one of the things
it does have friendly fire.
Does it?
Yes, yes, it does. Sorry.
Okay, when I was testing it, I must have
it's
messed it
anti-death
up.
ball in every possible way. Yeah.
Okay, so I was gonna say, okay, that's good that it's friendly fire, because it's such a dangerous unit. Like, it's so insanely.
All the new AOE and Legacy of the Void is friendly fire.
Yeah, the Ravager ones. Ugh.
Man, can't just blow shit up all over your own forces without worrying about it. Man, I wonder what race that
Yeah,
reminds me
right,
of.
dude.
Yeah,
Nate, Zombie and I high five so hard in that test area, like. Um, but man, the thing I'm wondering most about this though is like, again, if they're gonna keep the cost of these units, because HuK's making the argument like now, like why would you ever build Templar? And honestly, my only response would be maybe cost efficiency, because these things only the disruptors only have like 100 health, 100 shields, and a decent cooldown, but they're 300 gas. I mean, that's not something easily replaceable if they get sniped quickly. And I know the same argument can be made for Templar. So I mean, they perform the same role. My question is like, will they balance it out so it's more cost effective to maybe go one versus the other, depending on scenarios?
Yeah, that's one thing I was thinking about. Is like, so you need a robo, which is I forgot how long it takes to build a robo. Maybe 60 seconds, maybe a little bit more. So it's 100 gas. Then you need the robo bay, which is 200 gas, and then the disruptor, which is 300 gas. And then if you don't have any warp prism with it, it's like me charging a glass shadow. It's very obvious. You know it's coming. It's easy to dodge. And that's what a disruptor is. Like, if you see fucking rolling it in the middle of the map, I did it versus HuK, actually. Me and him played 1v1. And he did just like a HuK push into a bio push. And my every time my disruptor didn't come out of a warp prism, he just saw it and split. And it never killed anything. And it was pretty sad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. To me, that doesn't like that. That also comes down to like maybe HuK is really good at splitting units.
No. He wasn't very talented. No, he wasn't very talented.
Yeah, but stuff like that can be tweaked. Like if it fits into the role of an army, I mean,
Yeah, it's
eventually
more
just
it's
make
more
it
the
so that
concept.
as it charges up, it moves faster, right?
Yeah.
Or
Right,
some shit.
right
The
now it's
idea
just
of it.
concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh,
what about...
They can nerf the speed. They can nerf the.
No, but I feel like
So-
it's not a frontal unit. It's like a surprise, motherfucker, and then you come in.
In its current role, it'd be like, in my opinion, it'd be killed obviously to kill workers when you could,
Yes.
and then like if you're fighting a big army versus a big army, you always like I would always want to have like 2 or 3 of those. Just the same way I would want 2 or 3 Colossus or 2 or 3 Storms. Like if you have that and it comes in, even if you don't get good hits, you're gonna make them have to split their units in a cost inefficient way and break their
Right.
concave or whatever.
Can you imagine?
Well, go ahead. I was
Can
gonna
you
say.
imagine like force fields paired up with that? By
That's
the way,
exactly what I was gonna say. Yep. Like if you trap their army, like you imagine like a whole shitload of Roach Hydra or something, and then you have 2 or 3 of those come in, like they're just gonna die.
Because
So
disruptors don't path either. So once a disruptor is triggered, it can path over any unit. So
Man, I'm thinking like overgrowth, that third base scenario. You know, use the hatchery as part of the wall, cut in like 12 hydras, send in 1 disruptor, and have a good time.
Yeah, with status, especially in Time Warp and Force Field, the Disruptor has a
So-
lot of potential.
the other thing about the disruptor is that like obviously with units like the Colossus being nerfed, for a spectating experience, and this is one of those things where if you have difficulty splitting or blah 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 blah, for as a player maybe it makes things more difficult in the long run, but as a spectator, like right now you're watching a TVP engagement and the caster's like, oh, he doesn't have enough Vikings to kill him, and the Colossi are just killing everything. There's pretty much nothing he can do because his Vikings got sniped or we're out of position. And then you imagine like the guy's got like 3 disruptors or some shit instead of 3 Colossi behind, with still like Immortals and Gateway units, and it's like, oh shit, his fucking disruptors are moving in. Is he going to be able to split while he's got Zealots charging on? It's just like, it's a lot more tense of a moment when those units interact than it is.
It's a
when
bigger
Colossus
what
is
if.
sitting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more exciting. It's kind of like when you watch Widow Mines. Like, are the Widow Mines going to hit what they need to win the fight, right?
Yes.
Because that's not the best comparison considering the cost, but the impact they can have on an engagement. It's not like this. Okay, he's got 3 Colossi. I guess they're just gonna keep shooting at stuff and okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it wasn't announced. It's in one of the unannounced changes. Colossus range reduced to 8. All Protoss players across the world shed a tear, especially HuK. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude,
Why
HuK's
is it
all about them
always-
blink stalkers, man?
it's-
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no,
always
it's about it.
especially me.
No, it's about the gateway units. I forgot. I'm sorry. But Nathanias found that out. I didn't really realize it, although I was losing versus Hydras, and I was like, what the hell?
I tore through like absolutely everything for Terran and Protoss. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had done some pretty extensive testing with Zombie Grab, but when I met up with Nate, like, he had pointed
Yeah,
out so
well,
much
I
stuff that
mean,
we had
he's
missed too.
GM, and
Well, I
you're playing
asked
two
one
v
of
twos
the
with cranks, so
Okay,
I
he's
asked one of
no.
the
My point
devs
is to
about
say
it,
like
and they're like, "Oh, we
he
didn't
went
even see
super
that
in depth.
change."
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I know. Just like to give a hard time. But yeah, so the Colossus range a little bit nerfed. I mean, I think we can all agree that it's just nice that the Colossus is not going to be a big focus since it's a very boring unit. Yes,
Yep.
Oi, if you agree.
Very boring.
Of course, but like why not just remove it at this point? If you really like, in what situation? I'm trying to think. Would I want to make like as it is now? Would I want to
Maybe you
make the
rush. I mean,
Colossus?
I
Maybe
think
maybe you would get
if you
like
still
one or
wanted
two
Hmm.
to
early
hold like a really early
fireworks,
push.
yeah, like
But
yeah,
then why would you
that's what
get
I'm thinking.
range? But like anything late
You
game,
could-
I'm looking
you
at the
could- You're still
disruptor.
gonna force out, but you're still gonna force out like some Vikings, and then if you make your switch into disruptors or storm, then it has the same impact on a Terran
Guys,
army.
I have the craziest idea. Why not remove range, nerf the cost, and then we can have Puck doing War Prism Colossus arrest for the rest of his life.
Those are
Edit.
cool to watch, man. I'm not even gonna make fun of that. Like those are cool things to watch.
That's why I said it,
But
man.
yo,
I wasn't trying to go on.
I think one of the things too is like I can't remember carriers were reduced in like cost and time to build, right? We're talking about removing
Yep.
units. Funny enough, because like the carrier was gonna go. Now they've made it like super badass, and they also made it so like you can the interceptors can still attack once it dies. You can call them all back like on command. Like they are changing every unit of the game, and this is only the alpha stage. I'm sure there's still a lot of tweaks to come, and probably some big unit changes they haven't revealed yet. But like everything we got a taste for Legacy of the Void, I'm super stoked for like all the options. They might, as HuK said, some overlap, and that kind of sucks. But that was kind of the case for like think back to like Banelings and Infestors for a while too, right? And they tweaked it out, so now it kind of works. I mean, it's alpha. I don't know how much to get upset about, but the cool thing is, guys, and I want to stress this to everybody watching, from every Blizzard person I talk to, they basically emphasize that they do listen to the community. Like when they see the big posts on Reddit compiling all the changes and suggestions, like that is one of the biggest things that helps them prioritize what goes first when it comes to fixing. So you might not think the stuff we're talking about right now is really relevant because the game will change, but you know it influences you guys. You can start critically thinking about it, and then maybe make suggestions of your own. I don't know.
Yeah, it was funny. I asked TLO to be on the show, and he's like, "It's a waste of brain power to think about something that's still an alpha." Which I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're a pro, but as a community, it's really nice to see what Blizzard wants to do and the direction of what it's going to be. Okay, all right. So
That's such a TLO answer. It's a waste of brain power to even think about.
TLO's
As he
awesome, man.
sits like cross-legged
as-
and like going like
As
this or some shit.
it's like it's not like he's one of those guys that's articulate enough to actually give useful feedback that Blizzard would really listen to or anything. But,
So yes, TLO's
yeah.
awesome.
The other Protoss changes I thought were really interesting. I
Which-
don't think they talked about it.
Oh, Warpin.
on the announcement. The big
Warpin.
two big things. For obviously Warpin changes is really big, and the Immortal change I think also has a pretty big impact. So Warpin, if you use the warp gate, takes 8 seconds instead of 5 to warp shit in now, and you take 200% damage while the unit is warping in. So you don't want to just drag your zealots to warp them in around a ring of Marines when they land in your base.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that's the warping thing was the most disgusting situation for me I've ever done. HuK's not that good, and I was playing Protoss, and I'm like, I can beat a Terran, and the next thing you know, there's 20 Marines at my door, and I'm on 7 gates, and my 7 Zots take 8 seconds to warp in, and they take extra damage, and I die. And HuK, your thoughts?
I think well that specific situation was great, but in general I think it's the right move. Balance wise, I feel like it's a little cheap that Protoss can do that. Obviously they're gonna have to balance it out. So I mean the game's changing altogether. So if you're a Protoss player and you're worried like, oh shit, we're just gonna be way weaker now, not necessarily true. It's probably just going to be Warpins themselves are weaker, and you're going to have to be more careful about it. But in general, as a fan of the game, I think most people agree that the warp gate mechanic is too strong and it polarizes play too much. So I feel like any nerf to the warp gate, as long as they balance it out in other ways, is for the better of the game. As a fan and esports watcher myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think this pairs up too with maybe trying to encourage getting away from gateway technology being such a primary part of it. Like, again, with carriers being cheaper and building faster, and I know this is an example I'm getting stuck on, but it's the one I played with most of for the beta stuff or the alpha stuff. Is like maybe there's a chance that you actually rely less on gateway tech. Like you're no longer forced to warp in like 14 zealots to win a game, but instead you can actually efficiently build several units out of a
Yeah.
robo or a Stargate or something. So
Now,
I mean, I think warping,
take it a step further. If warping isn't like this thing that can really fuck you because of warp prisms or proxy pylons, maybe there's finally room further in the alpha that we'll see them adjust gateway units, or they've only announced one, like a single unit basically being added. So maybe if they were going to add something else, it could be a gateway unit. Maybe we actually get some solid, like, something that can kind of match the idea of that cheap composition that Terran and Zerg have, where as a Protoss player, you're not going to win the game off of any army of Zealot Stalker unless it's some
Anymore.
sort of like really, really sharp all-in. Like in Heart of the Swarm, there's only a handful of builds, but there's no late game composition like Marine tank, I mean, like Marine Marauder Medevac Mine. There's no like large amount of cheap unit composition like that for Protoss. So maybe that's something that can be opened up because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so.
Because that was
Blizzard.
Blizzard.
That's what I said.
Blizzard
too.
often said that. Yeah, because Blizzard was
Yeah,
always
be cool.
talking about how the warping mechanic made it difficult to buff gateway units. Maybe this is one of those things that makes it a little bit easier to deal with, since you can actually defend a little bit more easily when you're hit by a warp prism or something. And it forces Protoss players to think a little bit more about where they put their pylons and where they warp shit in.
I would also like to see, maybe this would do it, is with increased warp in time, that it actually becomes like a conscious choice whether you want to make your gateways warp gates. Like if there's that much more time.
I didn't check, but I don't know if the cooldown, like I don't know if
No, the
it's,
cooldown's the same. I checked.
Oh, is it the same?
So
Yeah.
it's so you're
So
you've
you're
increased
always
the
gonna
total
warp
amount of
gates,
time between warping.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's one thing. All right, I'm very scrubbed. I've played several amount of games in the last month where I was doing a DT build, and I forgot my warp gate, and it boggles my mind that a DT takes 55 seconds out of the gateway to come out, when there's no legit build order that will ever require you to do that. Like, you're never gonna go DT before warp gate research, and so to go on to that topic, you could have DTs take like 15 seconds out of the gate or whatever, but then they have to walk across the map, and then you can have like a set of warp gates and a set of gateways. But yeah, Chris, you had a point. Go on with it.
I was done.
I actually, I'm gonna get hate for bringing this
That
up.
sounds batshit crazy, but I can see the guy's point, because the whole point of DTs being strong is because of warping. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna get hate for bringing up Starbow here real quick, but
Oh,
I really
God.
like the way Starbow did gateway tech, where
Yeah.
the warp-ins were kind of weaker, but as a consequence, you could actually chrono boost a regular gateway at twice the speed of a regular chrono. So it actually was sometimes more efficient to actually not have warp gates at all, but instead keep them as regular and produce like a regular building. So I mean, I don't know which way they plan to take it, but it's just cool to know that there are options out there that have been used practically that Blizzard could look at.
I don't know. I still like warp gate. I think warp gate should be strong. It's one of the things that really sets Protoss aside from the other races. But tweaking, like, because most people always like, oh, the units should have less health or shields when they warped in further away. But that gets complicated as based on map sizes and shit.
Mhm.
So I really like tweaking things like the actual warp in timer, and taking extra damage is. I think it's a good enough that it's given us like a really solid foundation for stuff to look at as far as tweaking it to allow buffs for gateway units, which haven't really been touched since Wings of Liberty.
Yes, I agree. Moving on to the next change. The Immortal is actually a skill-based unit. And the funnest thing is, if you guys mention Avillo, you're going to get banned in chat, just a warning. Avillo was actually against this, saying that, they buffed the Immortal, but gaining 200 HP for 4 seconds is totally not a buff. It's a pretty big deal. If you cast them all at once like a noob, you're kind of fucked after that 4 seconds. because it doesn't have the shield anymore, so the damage is not reduced to 10 anymore. So that's actually a pretty big deal versus high damage units.
So I spoke to some of the guys at Blizzard that like work with like some of the balance and stuff, and basically this is part of a big focus, and I think they mentioned this on the panel, but I'm not 100% sure, to make StarCraft less about these hard counters, but still give you still have a unit have its strength. Like you can still lead a charge into a tank line with an immortal that procs that ability. Obviously, if you're if you're a scrub or you want to proc 8 immortals, all their shields at once, when the tanks are only focusing 1 immortal at a time, that's your fault. But I think this is just trying to open the door for certain strategies to not be as frustrating, like immortals super hard countering roaches and tanks and making it really difficult to deal with them, like if they have that warp prism there. And I think relying more on things like warp prism micro when you're going versus a roach defense, because you have more range to pick the immortal up from, I think that's going to be a cooler interaction than just the hardened shields letting him take six roach hits at once without actually taking real damage yet, and then picking up.
Any thoughts, Chris?
I agree with what Nathanias said.
Hard counters are boring.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's it. He said he covered it.
Moving on. This is really exciting. What was that kid's name? Sickness? The Korean kid with the warp prism? That guy's making a comeback, man. He's already bought the suitcases to put the money in it. Warp prism can now lift, can pick up something from 6 range.
Yep.
So that's actually like the funniest thing. And what it does is it makes the warp prism become a support unit. The Colossus, they lose range. When you get flanked and your Colossus is about to die, poof, pick it up, let it somewhere else. Go on.
I'm thinking, when I saw that, the first thing I thought about was this scenario where you've got, like, say, Warp Prism A and Warp Prism B, close enough that they can pick up something in the middle. You just keep transferring the Colossus from, like, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth or something. So, like, it really, like, not only does it save units, like, through support, I think it could really abuse positioning, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a really interesting change that gives more identity to the Warp Prism as something other than just using this to go for like those big counterattack warpins, because now it's like you can really do some cool shit with it, because normally the Warp Prism was kind of known for being a flimsy unit, right? I guess it did eventually get that shield buff or health buff or whatever it was, and the speed buff, which was nice. But yeah, this is something that is, I know that they're still looking at it, because it's something that might make I think I've heard some rumors, maybe like the cost, it's something that's still being looked at, but I think it's a really interesting way to mess with something that when we normally look at balance, I don't think this is the kind of stuff we think about. I've never thought about the pickup radius for a dropship before, but I think that this is a really cool thing to play around with, and it gives me some like sick ideas for like getting units. I mean, I thought it was hard to snipe the Warp Prism before with Marines, but if it's 6 range away and then the fucking DTs still escape, I'm gonna hate life, but it'll be cool.
Yeah, and actually, like, it kind of makes sense too. Like, Protoss are a smart race. Like, it boggles my mind that it was.
Too bad the players aren't.
Yeah. Speaking, you talking about bringing in all that lore, man. That was why I was so happy about the Banshee change. It's to fit the lore perfectly, Kappa.
God damn it, guys. Alright, let's try to move past those changes, because I know Chris has to go. So the Immortal... the next big thing is the Oracle. The Revelation, and... Actually, that's kind of a nerf. I didn't think about it until I watched In Control's video. It's kind of a nerf, because it's not as good versus DTs anymore, Chris. Your thoughts on the Oracle having Revelation and... Envision, yeah, thank you, being mixed together.
So it's not the same ability, or what?
It is the same ability. Like, when you cast Revelation, it detects that unit, but you lose Envision, which was used for DTs quite a lot, and mines.
It's kind of like when you use Fungal or EMP to reveal a DT.
Yeah, maybe, but it's an easy fix if they really wanted to fix it. If that became a problem, then they would just have, like, when you cast it, the Oracle itself becomes an Envision for like 10-15 seconds or something, nothing huge, but You understand?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's something that no one brought up. In Control, us, when we did our videos, we didn't bring
Yeah.
up the DT thing, so I just wanted to...
Yeah. I mean, I like the ability. It makes sense. It was stupid before how you had to do both
Mhm.
to get it. It just didn't make sense really. Now, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a good change. And if the DT thing becomes a problem, then they just make the Oracle itself become an observer-like unit for 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it would take to make it balanced, I guess.
I feel like this also kind of, in a weird way, it plays into like the counters and stuff, because we're gonna see units like this also plays into like the photon overcharge nerf, but you're gonna see things like, yeah, DT play and PvP be a little bit more punishing, I guess, if you don't have a robotics facility. But it's also gonna make other stuff a bit. My first thought is stuff like banshees or mine drops, right? If you miss, if they dodge your fucking revelation or something.
Then it's really cool. Also, one thing, Chris, someone brought up, I'd vote kick on Skype. You can't clear creep with a single Oracle anymore. Not that it was super viable, because Creep Tumor is way too beefy for an Oracle, by the way, David Kim. But that's not an option. Yeah, I'm just joking. I'm not bad crying about balance. So the next thing, the Status Mine. The Oracle gets a new spell where it asks, stop playing with your goddamn thing, it makes a lot of noise. Alright, so for 5 seconds, you're channeling a Status Trap. Which, by the way, this video is fucking inaccurate. Because you see, like, the Hydras.
Show
Okay.
the video. Show
Well,
the
I'm
video.
showing the video. Okay, it's not this inaccurate, but it doesn't look as good as... Like, you think the status is very short from the video.
Yeah.
But it's a very long time. They're invulnerable. It's just... So, there's two situations. Either you, like, surround the units that are in the status. There's 3 situations. Either you surround it, you wait for it to end, you kill them. Or you do that and then they send rescue for those units. Or you do that in a big battle and have the armies frozen and you kill the other half very easily. So if you can set up some 6 traps before the fight and fight half the army and celebrate with all the blood that's on the screen. Nathanias, you have big eyes. You look scared.
Sounds like it's really good at fucking people who keep their army in a ball.
Yeah?
Oh.
Yeah?
What an interesting idea.
I think it's really cool because like my favorite thing what I heard about this is like force fields really start falling off towards the end of the game. The sentries
Yes.
speak, it's you can't really use them once ultras and stuff start coming out either. But the status trap certainly brings back that same element of segmenting off an part of the army, but by giving it actual late game viability. Whereas right now, if you build 10 sentries 40 minutes in the game, you're just giving away gas.
Yes, you're much better off making Archon at that point. And so, and it gives the Oracle, it makes the Oracle useful later on after it stops harassing. HuK, thoughts on Status Trap real quick?
Yeah, I agree. It'll be like a better force field. I feel like it kind of overlapped with the roles with the force field, but I guess it's just like an upgraded version of force field. I don't know. I really I like the ability. I like everything about it. I just feel like it overlaps a little bit. Like
Yeah, but it forces people to not make that ball. So, like those beautiful 3-screen flanks that, Snoot and Targa would do.
Yes.
Then you see that happen more, which is...
But that's the same reason why you would do it against force field, right?
But the thing is,
Yeah,
you don't have force
but
field
what do you
the
mean?
whole.
There's
but
no
but you don't have
about it.
But you don't have force fields the whole
Can
game
the-
though.
Can the
You what?
stasis?
You stop making force fields for the entire game. Like at some point versus Zerg, like you stop making sentries.
Only if they have ultras, right?
They're not that good versus Vipers. You're better off with Archons and Templars. I mean,
How does breaking the stasis work? Is it just like waiting on the time, or
you pop it with a unit. So like if you
No, but I mean,
detect
like,
it,
okay,
you
so-
can kill it.
right? But you're hit with it. Is it just like then those units 10 seconds? There's no way to get them out at all. They're just okay.
No, they're stuck there. All right, moving on to the Tempest. Unless Chris, you had something else to say.
No, that's
All right, Tempest. And actually, we were talking about that in our video we made. I think like having a few to be annoying, to be pesky and annoying in late game. Like 3, you see, like 3 can accomplish a decent amount if they don't have queens. If Well, they can repair, I guess,
If
any
they
of.
don't have queens.
All right,
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's exactly
And
my
PV
point.
and
That's
P-
exactly my point.
and P-
If they don't have a brain,
It
this
takes
ability is
forever.
great.
Oh god,
Takes
desRow. Oh,
All right, they might. You guys.
Like this is the same conversation I had with him. Is like they show this video, right? And it's this fucking like AI
50
Zerg
seconds.
that just has 3 broodlords there with no support, and he's just like AFK. And the Tempest come up and they're like, boom, 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 and it's like, oh, cool, sick, you did that. And then the like units just kind of like slowly came forward to this huge Protoss death ball and then dies. Like I just don't seeing it be that useful late game. I don't see where I would ever want to waste my time using this ability to kill 3 spores and invest that much money into killing 3 spores or 3 turrets or whatever.
So would you want a nerf so that they don't have time to heal it, repair it, or you would want something else?
I wouldn't want this shit at all. I don't ever see where I would use this late game where I'd be like, fuck, I need those 3 Tempests. I need to do these abilities and I need to kill those 3 turrets. Those
You
3
would burn
spores,
energy on the queens, like they'd have to transfuse them.
Ooh. Who the fuck cares? At
making
that
feedback.
point,
Oh wait, we're
at
not
the-
making feedbacks since disruptors, right? So
at that point in the game, because you're thinking, okay, this is really late game. If you have the time and energy to make 3 Tempests to go harass fucking 3 spores, who the fuck is gonna care about 3 spores as Zerg? Like, it's just not something I would be using my time for.
All right,
Late game.
Nathanias.
So, the Tempest change is bad for Protoss for obvious reasons. I
Yes.
like that it opens the door up for certain
Broodlords.
units to be useful again. Broodlords, with the battlecruiser change, we're gonna see those. With the carrier change,
Yes.
I think that on maps where you can afford to get them, people are gonna want to get carriers with the way that the game is set up right now, because a lot of things that were great at stopping mostly air units have been pretty heavily shat on in Heart of the Swarm.
So
Actually, in Legacy of the Void.
So it goes back to you saying like you dislike hard counters and
Yeah.
Tempest was
Well,
one of them.
So this comes back to the number one issue that I think Todd was of course the first person to bring this up. Which is dealing with
Static
air.
D? Oh.
Dealing with air from Zerg or whatever, blah 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 blah, because he is convinced that it's not possible to deal with like Zerg air and Mutalisks and whatever. But this is still something that, like I said, we don't know what or if another unit that could be added to Protoss would be. But this is the kind of stuff that if any of you pro gamer Protosses that are watching, this is the kind of stuff that you guys should be discussing, because I feel like this is a good moment to try to find like another way to fill out like what Protoss really needs, because I kind of agree. Like, I don't like the idea of the Tempest like 2-3 fucking shotting most capital ships, because then it's a hard counter that keeps them from using. At first glance, I think Disintegration's a cool idea, but it needs to act faster for the damage it does to actually be useful. Otherwise, transfusing that shit is going to be super easy. Unless Disintegration had like a low cooldown, which would also be kind of broken.
Agreed. Rifkin, any quick thoughts on the matter?
not really. This is one of the changes I really didn't care about when I heard about it. It's not something that really struck me as like, whoa, my god. Because I really don't think those I don't know, Tempests aren't really that interesting of a unit anyways. Like, even in their current form, I don't love watching them when they come out to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where, like, maybe it'll be cool, maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just look like the Corruptors are pissing on things like they do with no effect. I don't know, but I think it's one of those things where, what was that other change? Oh, I can't remember. There's some change in Heart of the Swarm that I also didn't care about, so never mind, bad reference. Anyways, I have no opinion. I don't think this is that big of a deal. I think it needs to be changed for the better, for the worse. Either way, just changed.
Okay. The final change is the carrier. Whoops, I messed up the video. Yeah, the carrier being useful again. And
Yes.
the sickest thing is, to me, is that you can dump the interceptors. So now,
Yes.
eight interceptors or 200 minerals. If you think about it late game, 200 minerals is 2 zealots. 2 zealots are pretty garbage compared to 8 interceptors. And I don't know if from the 2v2, because Jadong was wondering, I don't know if they're invincible. and they just like they die
They
eventually.
they were not invincible. I was watching the game.
Also,
I
you
don't
just
know.
had, you had a
No.
bunch of
Jadon was
roaches.
retarded. I see them like exploding. The hydras
So-
are shooting up, and then like he has no anti-air
He-
anywhere near it, and he's like, "What the fuck? They don't die? Yeah, because you have nothing shooting at them. Of course they don't die."
So, by the way, about the 2v2s, I feel like it was crooked.
'Kay,
Because
this-
no, MC
no,
Nyon
no,
won
no, no,
because
no,
they could
no.
read the changes because they have better English.
the 2v2s.
Yeah.
This is the scoop from the inside. The 2v2s, if
Yeah.
you won the first match
Yeah.
late at night, you had to be up the next morning at like 8 or 9 a.m.
Oh.
There's
Yeah.
no prize pool. There's no nothing. So I
I heard
wouldn't
they got a
say...
shirt. I heard they got a shirt.
You got a
Yeah,
shirt?
like-
God damn it.
So if you played, like, imagine you've been there all day at BlizzCon, you're really tired. They start like I don't know, they were behind schedule. The show matches are like at the end of the day. And they're like, well, if you win this, you can be up tomorrow morning early here again to play another one. I don't know. I'm not
So-
saying anything, but I am
I
saying
heard-
something. So
I heard very reliably that nobody really wanted to play those, honestly. So I'm 100% sure what HuK's saying is true.
yeah, so don't take those show matches as like the fucking key to balance as far as units and stuff. If they just
All right,
yeah,
all right.
but-
So, your thoughts on the carrier? Are you excited? Are you happy? Is life good? Well, he won BlizzCon, so he's good, but...
And in case anyone didn't hear, it takes 90 seconds to build one now without chrono boost.
Oh, yes, I didn't mention that. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Much faster.
But the overall big picture thing is what I'm more excited about. Like you guys were talking about earlier on the show, that it's probably going to be a lot less likely that we're going to see these big death ball armies, and we're going to see less maxing. Where like maxing is a big thing.
Yeah.
It happens very often. So carriers, sure, they're better. We're going to see them more often, but at the same time, we're going to see less maxing and less big armies. So hopefully, it'll kind of balance out that Blizzard never wants it to be like every game you just see carriers, you just see carriers, you just see carriers. And I think if carriers were as good as they are in Legacy of the Void and they were in HuKs now, we'd see it every fucking game.
Yeah, I mean, people would actually be excited about the possibility of Broodlords being back if they didn't see Broodlords every single game for a solid year, right?
Yes.
But with all the changes considered, plus the carrier buff, plus the battlecruiser buff, plus everything, it's gonna be like you're gonna see them sometime, and when
Yeah.
you see them, it's
When
gonna be
you
like,
see
wow,
the
that's
late
cool.
game,
Yeah.
when you see the late game, it will be awesome.
It was like old school PvP. Like you would really only ever see Koreans get to like the Colossus versus Colossus wars, right? Like it was just a rare occurrence. But now like everybody does it, so it's like not as interesting. So I think I'm definitely like whatever the late game ends up being, whatever unit composition, maybe it's just Terrans go pure Cyclones. I don't know. I don't care. I just know that I'm gonna be really excited to see like all the different things compared to what we see right now, what's shoved in down our throats, because it's the only options we currently have.
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to me saying the percentage of games that maxed out in Brood War were a lot smaller compared to StarCraft 2. And hopefully with the economy change, what you guys are saying will come to life. That kind of wraps up. We were supposed to do a 3-part show. I'm still aiming to do that. We kind of overlapped. Chris, do you have any final shout-outs before we take a small break and come back with a new set of guests that
No.
are more grateful than you?
No,
Oh.
I'm good.
What are you going to be up to next?
I'm gonna be hanging out with you in Peru. Are you so excited, desRow? BlizzCon wasn't it, but Peru probably gonna be it. We're probably gonna see a lot of each other.
Yeah, I hope we don't get shanked, man.
Well, yeah, the funny story, yeah, well, you can tell it later, I don't have to say it. But maybe Peru's a little sketchy, maybe we're gonna get robbed. Who knows? desRow looked up some interesting places to go, maybe. Won't,
DesRow-
Alright.
won't say any
Alright,
more than
thank you,
that.
guys.
And bye.
Shots.
All right, guys. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Thank you, HuK, for being part of the show.